The story begins as Kajura Kaikeru is told he is being removed from his party because he is no longer strong enough to keep up with their battles. The person delivering the news is Hagane Ko, the level 254 Valkyrie leader of their party, Holy Sword, while Kaikeru is only a level 75 trap master. Ko recalls how the four of them rose through the ranks together when they first came to Tokyo, and Kaikeru remembers thinking the city would be crawling with monsters, only to find it was just another big city full of people and opportunity. Ko tells him that removing him was her personal decision and that she has not yet told the other two members of their party. Kaikeru reflects that while a leader can expel anyone, doing so usually damages a party's reputation. Feeling he should have been the one to leave first, Kaikeru apologizes, and Ko acknowledges that he has been stubborn since they were children, which is why she had to be the one to make the decision. She informs him that a fourth of their shared assets can be transferred to his account, but he refuses the money. He insists that he caused them trouble and the money should be used to equip his replacement instead. They say their final goodbyes to each other before Ko turns and walks away. Left alone, Kaikeru admits to himself that he already knew this was coming because their recent dungeon trips felt like suicide missions for him. He remembers being afraid to leave his friends and recalls a near-death experience where he would have been killed by an attack if his party members had not saved him. He reflects on his life, acknowledging that people have always pointed out the talent gap between him and his friends, a difference that has existed since he was born. He cries, wishing he could have stayed with them for just a little longer. As the news of his expulsion from Holy Sword spreads, Kaikeru overhears people gossiping about him. They comment that it took long enough for him to be kicked out and that it was always a mystery how a trap master ended up in a party of geniuses. While walking down the street, he hears more comments about his strange job class and internally agrees that he was dragging his friends down. He bumps into a powerful adventurer who doesn't even notice the collision. The world's background is explained, noting that it has been 40 years since mysterious holes first appeared in the sky over Tokyo, which led to some people awakening abilities and becoming adventurers. A news report highlights the accomplishments of Holy Sword, Japan's most celebrated party, for conquering 300 dungeons. The report mentions that the party is now expected to clear the Origin Gate, one of the 7 legendary first dungeons that humanity has never conquered. Kaikeru sees the report and feels it is no longer his concern, but then he notices something strange above the city. He looks up and sees a terrifying sight that no one else seems to notice: a giant, monstrous arm emerging from a dark vortex in the sky. As people shout to run, the arm strikes the city, causing a massive explosion and widespread destruction. Kaikeru is caught in the blast and is left wounded among the rubble, wondering what just happened. He sees that the arm and the vortex have disappeared and questions if it was an attack from the Origin Gate. Lying injured, his first thought is to warn the girls of his former party before anyone else gets hurt. As he lies defeated, a mysterious woman with long white hair appears before him, calling his state unsightly for a chosen one, and remarking that it must be fate that he was the only one who could see the attack. Kaikeru asks who she is, and she playfully suggests she might be a god or a demon before asking him if there is something he desires. She then says, "Shall we begin?" and extends a dark tendril towards him as he cries out in pain. Sometime later, Kaikeru awakens to find his wounds completely healed and the mysterious woman gone, making him wonder if it was all a dream. He then hears her voice in his head, telling him that she has given him power and that he should now live as he pleases. Just then, more debris begins to fall, threatening to crush him and a nearby civilian. As he desperately thinks of what to do, his skill menu appears, showing his usual traps, but he then notices a new, unfamiliar skill called Arrow Symbol. Realizing this must be the power the woman gave him, he activates it without hesitation. A large, magical arrow symbol appears and stops the falling debris, manipulating its movement and saving them both. After the incident, an official thanks Kaikeru for his help but dismisses his story about a giant arm emerging from the Origin Gate, since no one else saw it. Kaikeru realizes it's useless to argue and thinks that even if they believed him, they would be powerless against such a threat. He initially decides to leave the matter to Holy Sword, but then changes his mind. He travels to a forest near Tokyo, determined to find something that could help his former party conquer the Origin Gate and to see if he now has what it takes to fight alongside them again. He encounters a D-rank monster and sets a slash trap, but the creature easily dodges it. He reflects on the inherent weakness of trap masters, their inability to attack directly, but remains calm, confident in his experience. He prepares another trap as the monster lunges, and this time he successfully ensnares and defeats it. He realizes his new skill is incredible, As long as he can touch a monster, he can force it into one of his traps, perfectly compensating for his class's main weakness. Although he knows he is still not used to close-range combat, he is overcome with joy, having finally gained the power he had always desperately wanted. Elsewhere, a heavily armored female warrior is seen fighting in a different location. As miners tell their Ojusama to flee, she yells at them to be quiet, claiming they are distracting her in her quest to become even stronger. Inside a cave where a young female warrior is fighting desperately against a large number of monsters. Her retainers plead for their Ojusama to leave them behind and save herself, but she is overwhelmed by the sheer number of enemies. Meanwhile, in a nearby forest, Kujura Kaikeru has just defeated a monster and leveled up on his own. He reflects that he has relied on others for too long and needs to be more independent. As he walks, he realizes he shouldn't wander too far from the main area. He hears the distinct sound of battle clashing in the distance and recalls that ever since the gates first appeared, monsters have been slowly invading the human world. He follows the sound to a cave he thought was unmonitored and understands that someone is fighting inside. Hearing the continuous clash of weapons against shields, Kaikeru deduces that the fighters are in serious trouble and are stuck on the defensive. He is unsure how many monsters there are or how strong they might be, considering they could be even more powerful than the one he just fought. He thinks about calling the association for help but ultimately decides against running away, believing that abandoning people in need is not the path that will reunite him with his former party. Knowing the potential danger, he puts on his armor and prepares for a fight by setting a trap at the cave's entrance. Inside, the situation is dire as the female warrior is grabbed by a monster and cries out in pain. Just then, Kaikeru's trap activates, instantly defeating the horde of creatures and saving the group. The warrior is stunned by the sudden turn of events, impressed by the speed and high-quality equipment of the newcomer. Kaikeru asks if she needs help, and she quickly accepts. He clarifies that he is not part of a rescue force but was just leveling up nearby and will only claim experience points, not any of the loot. He observes that she had been protecting the civilians all by herself. The warrior introduces herself as Ray Agino, a paladin. Kaikeru gives his name and states his job is a trap master. Agino suggests that she handle the defense while he takes on the offense. Kaikeru takes command, telling Agino to protect the civilians while he deals with the attacks. He discovers the remaining monsters are tougher to beat without the element of surprise. Realizing that luring them into traps individually is too slow, he feels he needs a new area of effect technique. An idea forms in his mind, and he feels confident he can create a new skill by combining his existing traps. He activates a trap fusion, merging his arrow symbol and slash traps. He unleashes the arrow symbol slash, a powerful spinning attack that wipes out the rest of the monsters instantly. Agino is shocked and asks if he is a wizard, finding it impossible that a trap master could perform such an attack. Kaikeru simply confirms he is a trap master as he checks on their well-being. Suddenly, a heavy stomp echoes from deeper within the cave. Kaikeru's expression turns serious, and he says that from his experience, a large group of monsters is often led by a boss. Just as he predicts, a mighty ogre emerges from the darkness. Kaikeru immediately instructs Agino to get the civilians to safety while he confronts the ogre, knowing this fight will be a true test of his new abilities. He sets a trap and unleashes a double arrow symbol attack, piercing the ogre and making it roar in pain. Aware of his own weak defenses, he plans to keep his distance and slowly whittle down the ogre's health with his daggers. Meanwhile, after leading the civilians away, Agino tells one of them to guide the expected rescue party to their location before deciding she must go back to help Kaikeru. Back in the fight, Kaikeru finds himself unable to dodge one of the ogre's attacks. Thinking fast, he throws his weapon as a feint and quickly fuses his arrow symbol with a fire trap. The resulting explosion engulfs the ogre. Witnessing this, Agino is in awe, thinking that Kaikeru has the speed of a rogue combined with the firepower of a wizard, and she believes he is a man who will fundamentally change how the world views adventurers. While looking at a large city billboard for Ray, Japan's biggest adventurer gear brand, Kujura Kaikeru feels a sense of nostalgia. He suddenly realizes that he recognizes the name of the woman he recently saved, Ray Agino, and understands that she is the company president's daughter and the chief of the Hokuriku branch. Later, in a lavishly decorated room, Kaikeru has tea with Agino, who formally thanks him for his help in the cave where her team was surveying for valuables. She explains the monsters they encountered were far stronger than their information had suggested. When Kaikuru asks why a branch chief was on bodyguard duty, she admits that because she obtained her position through family connections, she felt a personal responsibility to go after sending her subordinates into a dangerous situation. Agino then reveals the true purpose of their meeting is business and surprises Kaikuru by offering him a sponsorship contract. Kaikuru is confused by the offer, pointing out that he has no public relations value and wouldn't look good on a poster. Agino clarifies that she simply wants to support him with the goal of him becoming the strongest adventurer there is. This shocks Kaikuru, who was just expelled from his party for being weak. Agino explains that she views it as a long-term investment that she believes will pay off in the future. When she asks why he was expelled, he tells her it was because he was too weak, which leads her to bluntly state that his former party must be blind. After he tells her not to badmouth them, he reflects that she was only trying to cheer him up and that he is still immature despite his new power. Agino apologizes and reassures him that she doesn't mind his past or his current strength, because she has faith that he will grow stronger both physically and mentally in the future. Moved by her confidence in him, Kaikuru's resolve is strengthened, and he formally accepts the sponsorship contract. Agino then casually asks which party he used to belong to, and she is left speechless when he reveals it was Holy Sword. The scene then shifts to the remaining members of Holy Sword. Ashitari Yukiko sits atop the massive skull of a defeated monster, wondering if Kaikuru is doing alright. Their leader, Hagane Ko, believes that letting him go was for the best because they could no longer expose him to such danger for their own ambitions. Itomi Kukuri tries to comfort Ko, but Ko feels she cannot be forgiven for cutting off Kaikuru's life as an adventurer. Yukiko teases Ko, saying she should have just confessed her romantic feelings instead of being so formal, but Ko is too flustered to respond. Yukiko then changes the subject, asking about a rumor concerning an expedition to the Origin Gate. Ko confirms that a plan is in motion for December, with a selection test in the fall to recruit other top parties for support. She then announces her intention for all of them to retire from being adventurers after they conquer the gate. Following his meeting with Agino, Kaikuru asks her to prepare a low-rank dungeon for him to train in. He arrives at a cordoned-off area where he is met by an inspector, Toga Natsum, who informs him that Agino has transferred the rights of the dungeon to him. Natsum clarifies she is only there for observation and will not provide any help, which Kaikuru understands. Inside, he begins his training, first testing the range and cooldown of his new skills before focusing on combat practice. He believes if he can master using his arrow symbol to strengthen himself, he can fight on par with a fighter-type adventurer. He then stands before a large, ornate door, steeling himself to enter a boss room alone for the first time in his life. Inside, he faces a B-rank goblin general. Looking at the powerful enemy, he thinks of his former teammates, Ko, Kukuri, and Yuko, and strengthens his resolve to catch up to them on his own. The goblin attacks by causing stalagmites to erupt from the ground, turning the entire room into its weapon and preventing Kaikuru from getting close. Realizing he needs to create an opening, he unleashes a combined arrow symbol + attack. This gives him the chance to rush in and set another trap, which hits the boss. He finishes the fight with a powerful arrow symbol X4 attack. The defeated monster dissolves, leaving behind a single drop, a ring that enhances fire attribute attacks. Though he could use it with his own fire trap, he decides he will give it to Ray instead. As he exits the dungeon, he finds Natsum, who had fallen asleep while waiting, and she welcomes him back. After successfully clearing a dungeon on his own, Kajura Kaikuru examines the ring that dropped from the boss, identifying it as a fire element item that enhances attacks. He thinks that while he could use it with his own fire trap, he will give it to Ray Agino instead. As he exits the dungeon through the glowing clear gate, he reflects that his leveling progress is slow but steady, though he acknowledges he could have earned more experience if he were in a party exploring higher-ranking areas. His thoughts are interrupted by an energetic young girl with long dark hair who runs up to him with open arms, exclaiming that he is finally out. The girl rushes past him, complimenting his pretty cloak and saying it suits him well. In a close-up of her excited face, she tells him it's the first time she's ever seen such rare drop gear outside of a shop. Standing behind her, the Inspector Toga Natsum explains to a confused Kaikuru that she had told the girl the dungeon was private, but she didn't listen out of curiosity. The girl introduces herself as Tsukasa, a 14-year-old adventurer, and after telling Kaikuru he looks super strong, she asks to trade contact information. Kaikuru observes her and thinks to himself that it is unusual to see an adventurer so young in Tokyo. He bluntly refuses her request, which shocks Tsukasa. He turns away and scolds her for her lack of caution in giving out personal information. In response, a desperate Tsukasa reveals she is a rank B assassin and holds up her adventurer card to prove it. She pleads with him, explaining that she needs a buddy for dungeon exploration, which surprises Kaikeru as she is ranked higher than him. He asks her about her friends, and she sadly explains that they won't go with her because the dungeons she wants to explore are too dangerous for them. When he suggests she go solo, she smiles wistfully and says that being alone is lonely. Kaikeru realizes her situation is the opposite of his own. She is too skilled to find partners, whereas he was considered too weak. Moved by her predicament, he agrees to exchange contact information but warns her not to call him all the time because he is busy. She happily saves his contact as Kajurnikan before running off. Later, while walking through the city at night with Ray Agino, Kaikeru reports that he feels ready to handle a higher-ranked dungeon. Agino agrees to prepare one for him. He then remembers the ring he found and offers it to her. Agino is shown in a dramatic close-up, blushing and completely shocked by the gesture. She becomes flustered and asks what it means when a man gives a woman a ring. He quickly apologizes and clarifies that he didn't mean anything by it, explaining that the solo dungeon run felt like a special first step for him and he wanted her to have the memento to share in that moment. After their inspector, Toga Natsum, chimes in, he ends up placing the ring on her left ring finger, much to her surprise. Back in his room, he receives a call from Tsukasa, who asks him to join a temporary party the next day with an uncle she knows. Despite his hesitation about joining a group of random people, he eventually agrees on the condition that the leader approves. The next day, Kaikeru meets the party, and the leader welcomes him, saying his job as a trap master doesn't matter much at their rank. The leader adds that Kaikeru seems honest, which is the most important trait for trusting someone in a dungeon, and with that, the group eagerly heads off to raid a dungeon. As they enter, Kaikeru senses a strange feeling but dismisses it as the party begins to fight monsters. He is impressed by his new teammate's strength, especially Tsukasa's, whose speed and control make him believe she's destined to become a top-tier adventurer. As they venture deeper into the dungeon and approach the boss room, the leader makes a cryptic comment before suddenly grabbing Tsukasa from behind. In that moment, Kaikeru understands the strange feeling he had earlier. It was the distinct sound of high-rank gear, a sound he remembers well from his time with Holy Sword. He confronts the group, accusing them of disguising their high-rank equipment to look low-rank, which surprises the leader. Tsukasa realizes with horror that they were bandits who had lured them into a trap. Kaikeru states that their movements and gear prove they are not C-rank and accuses them of being murderers who kill other adventurers for their equipment. The bandit leader mocks them, admitting he was relieved Kaikeru was only a trap master, and rants about how no one would team up with high-rankers like Tsukasa who look down on others. Tsukasa bravely tells Kaikeru to run and warn others, but the bandits laugh, saying it's her fault he will die there with her. As Tsukasa cries, lamenting that she thought she had finally found a friend, Kaikeru apologizes to her but declares that he has no intention of running away, because the path he is on does not allow him to ignore such trash. In the forest dungeon, with the bandit leader staring in disbelief at Kaikeru, demanding to know what he just said. Standing calmly before his enraged opponents, Kaikeru repeats that he called them ignorable trash. The leader's face contorts with fury as he calls Kaikeru a trash-tier job punk, and orders his men to kill him. As one of the bandits charges forward with a spear, Kaikeru, with a focused expression, swiftly sets an arrow sigil trap on the ground. The magical circle erupts with energy, sending the attacker flying backward through the air and crashing hard onto the ground in defeat. Kaikeru calmly tells the fallen bandit he was too slow, adding that no matter how much rare gear he wears, he is still just a C-rank on the inside. The furious leader hesitates, realizing that if he touches the dangerous arrow sigil, he's toast. He instead yells and throws a flashbang grenade, which explodes in a bright light, forcing Kaikeru to shield his eyes. The leader, recovering from the blast, boasts about his combat experience and vows to kill Kaikeru and take all of his gear, claiming that he got strong by taking equipment from those who mocked him. Kaikeru coolly refutes his philosophy, stating that stolen gear is not true strength and that the bandit has already lost to his own weakness of heart. The two then clash in a blur of motion, locked in close combat. After the fight, the bandits are shown defeated and tied up near a small tent. Tsukiga's Tsukasa explains that she has called for backup and confirms that no other monsters appeared. Tsukasa apologizes for dragging Kaikeru into the dangerous situation, but he reassures her that he was actually glad she invited him. He notes that their party is now down to 2 and suggests they end their exploration for the day. Unwilling to end on a bad note, Tsukasa asks if they can continue, and seeing that her spirit is still intact, Kaikeru agrees with a smile. As they venture deeper into the woods, the Inspector Toga Natsum watches from a distance, relieved that she did not need to intervene. As they continue, Tsukasa playfully teases Kaikeru about his amazing and mysterious skills. They soon arrive at a large, ornate door, which Tsukasa excitedly identifies as the boss room. Inside, however, the snowy, rocky landscape appears empty. Kaikeru warns her to stay on guard, as bosses sometimes hide. Suddenly he spots a faint, blurry streak move through the snow, but Tsukasa sees nothing. Certain he wasn't mistaken, Kaikeru deduces they are facing a wolf-type monster with stealth skills that make it invisible to the naked eye. A moment later, a howl echoes through the room, and Kaikeru identifies it as a stealth wolf calling its pack. A pack of wolves with glowing eyes appears, and Kaikeru realizes the boss is hiding while endlessly spawning its underlings, turning the battle into a deadly game of hide and seek. He knows their only chance is to find and defeat the main wolf. He asks Tsukasa to hold off the pack on her own for 10 seconds, and she agrees. While she fights, he sets numerous traps and pushes her to move faster and faster to clear the area. With most of the smaller wolves gone, he can focus his senses on tracking the boss by its howl, but the creature attacks him before he can pinpoint its location. Though they lose its position again, Kaikeru confidently tells a worried Tsukasa that he has a plan. Thrilled by the intense battle, Tsukasa looks up and thinks that fighting alongside him is as fun as love. Realizing this is what being in a real party feels like, she turns to him and asks if he will officially team up with her. In the snowy dungeon boss room with a close-up of Tsukasa's face as he asks Kajura Kaikeru to officially form a party with him. Kaikeru internally reflects that he has never once considered joining a party other than his former one, Holy Sword. He tells Tsukasa that while he appreciates the offer, he needs time to think and that their current priority is dealing with the stealth wolf. After losing sight of the creature again, Kaikeru confidently states that he knows where it is and just needs Tsukasa's help to execute his plan. Tsukasa expresses his admiration for Kaikeru's amazing abilities as Kaikeru prepares for the final confrontation. He then unleashes a powerful arrow symbol X4 trap that he had set up in advance. The trap activates, launching Tsukasa forward at an incredible blurry speed. Though he can barely see the target himself, he trusts Kaikeru's aim and lunges with his daggers, successfully striking the nearly invisible form of the stealth wolf boss. With the boss defeated, a large, glowing clear gate appears in the snowy landscape, and Tsukasa celebrates, amazed at having cleared such a high-level dungeon for the first time. Later, in a well-appointed room, Kaikeru and Tsukasa sit with Ray Agino and explain the incident with the bandits. They are served tea by Toga Natsum, who is now dressed in a maid's uniform, surprising Kaikeru. She explains that when she is not working as an observer, she works as a maid, and Agino expresses her relief that her friends are safe. Tsukasa, however, is still anxiously waiting for Kaikeru's answer to his proposal. Kaikeru apologizes for the delay and explains that he cannot form an official party, as his ultimate goal is to get strong enough to reunite with his former party, Holy Sword. Agino interjects, advising him that joining a party is the most beneficial path to achieving his goal. She explains that teamwork allows for more effective leveling and teaches crucial combat skills that he cannot learn solo, making Tsukasa's offer incredibly helpful for his quest to rejoin Holy Sword. Though Kaikeru hesitates to take advantage of Tsukasa's kindness knowing he will eventually leave, Tsukasa insists he doesn't mind a temporary arrangement and wouldn't want to miss the chance to team up with him. Moved by his understanding, Kaikeru agrees to the proposal. He then asks Agino to join as well, reasoning that they need a tank for their party, and she accepts. With the trio in agreement, Tsukasa joyfully celebrates the formation of their new party. Kaikeru is chosen as the leader and, after some thought, decides on a name, Vestage. He explains the name reflects his motivation to chase after his past, even if it seems embarrassing. As Tsukasa excitedly exchanges contact information with Agino, Agino is shocked to discover from Tsukasa's registration that he is actually a boy, much to Kaikeru's amusement. Meanwhile, in a different location, Hagane Ko receives a report from Natsum about Kaikeru forming a new party. She privately thinks of Kaikeru as an adventurer idiot, but finds this quality irresistibly cute, though she knows he is not yet strong enough to join her where she and Holy Sword are currently fighting a massive monster called the Hand of the Death God. She resolves to finish their quest before he can catch up. Unbeknownst to her, her teammate Yukiko is aware of Kaikeru's progress and decides to keep it a secret, fearing it would make Ko lose her edge in battle. The chapter concludes with the new party, Vestage, dressed in formal attire and heading out for their first battle together. At a grand formal party, where a tuxedo-clad Kajura Kaikeru and a well-dressed Tsukigase Tsukasa stand amidst a crowd of adventurers. Tsukasa looks around in awe at the scale of the event, and Kaikeru explains that it is a gathering for a raid battle, where multiple parties team up to challenge a difficult dungeon. He adds that this time is special because of the person leading it. At a podium, a young woman with blonde hair named Kiryuin Jessica addresses the crowd. She is introduced as the raid organizer and a promising, and Tsukasa notes her youthful, foreign appearance. Ray Agino clarifies that Jessica's father is the true employer for the raid, and Kaikeru explains that they are sponsoring the event to gain the achievement of clearing a high-rank dungeon. He illustrates how in large raids, powerful adventurers can carry less experienced ones, creating a win-win situation where the sponsor gets their clear record and the participants gain experience and a reward. Tsukasa thinks this seems a bit unfair, but Kaikeru reflects that he has no room to talk after being carried by Japan's top party himself. Jessica then announces that due to the unexpectedly high number of recruits, a selection test of duels will be held the next day to choose only 20 members for the raid. The news causes a stir, and a worried Tsukasa immediately decides to eat as much of the party food as he can. Standing amidst the crowd, Kaikeru feels a sense of nostalgia, remembering how he used to leave all social interactions to his former leader, Ko, and he hopes no one recognizes him. He then notices another young adventurer in a school uniform who is visibly panicking about the duels, so much so that she drops her plate of food. Kaikeru approaches her and, after kneeling to help, calmly asks what has her so panicked. The girl explains she is a wizard and is bad at one-on-one duels but desperately needs to join this raid. Kaikeru reassures her, explaining that many rearguards are bad at duels and that the organizers are looking for the most suitable members, not just the winners. He advises her to get paired with an opponent that allows her to showcase her full power, as a good performance could secure her spot even if she loses. Elsewhere at the party, Agino congratulates Jessica on organizing the event. Jessica reveals that after the raid, her father will leave the company to her, making them equals. While she accepted Kaikeru based on Agino's recommendation, she expresses doubt about having a trap master on the team, leading Agino to tease her for being a kid who doesn't understand his true worth. The next day, the duels begin. Kaikeru is declared the winner of his match, having used his arrow symbol skill as secretly as possible to secure the victory. His unique attack is noticed by the raid commander, Hayuru, who is left wondering about the strange technique. Tsukasa rushes over to praise Kaikeru for his easy win before they go to watch Agino's match. Tsukasa has never seen her fight before, and they watch as Agino, a paladin, enters the arena. Kaikeru is surprised to see that her opponent is the very same wizard he had comforted the day before, Yujui Turu. The match begins, and Turu unleashes a powerful lift spell that tears massive chunks of the arena floor into the air. As the debris rains down, Agino, deciding to show the dignity of a tank, stands her ground and successfully blocks the immense attack with her shield, impressing Tsukasa. Before the fight can continue, an official stops the match and declares that both combatants have passed, having more than proven their capabilities. After the duel, Yujui Turu approaches Kaikeru and thanks him, saying his advice helped her stay calm and show her power. During their conversation, Kaikeru accidentally lets slip the nickname of his former teammate, Yuko. Turu, an avid fan of Holy Sword, is shocked and immediately scolds him, explaining that Yuko is a special nickname only close friends of Ashitari Yukiko are allowed to use, a fact she knows from a fan report. This reveals Kaikeru's past to Tsukasa. Kaikeru explains that since their leader handled all media, most people would only recognize the party's most famous members and likely not him. Yujui Turu staring in shock after Kaikeru reveals his connection to her idol, Ashitari Yukiko. He explains that he was the one who gave Yukiko the nickname Yuko, which is why he still uses it out of habit. Turu recalls hearing a fan rumor that the nickname was given by a childhood friend, a detail never mentioned in official interviews, and she realizes the person standing before her is that very friend. As she processes this, Tsukasa excitedly dubs Kaikeru the Phantom Fourth member of Holy Sword, a title Kaikeru finds quite embarrassing. Turu then jumps to the conclusion that a scandal must have led to his expulsion from the famous party. Wanting to avoid causing any more trouble for his former teammates, Kaikeru asks Turu to please keep his past a secret. Turu, understanding that he would be hounded by fans and media if his identity were revealed, agrees to keep quiet. However, her fan side takes over, and she shyly asks if he has any pictures of Yuko. Later, in a hotel lounge, Kaikeru shows her a rare photo of a young Ashitari-san on his phone, much to Toru's delight. He thinks to himself that while he knew his friends had some intense fans, meeting one in person is a strange experience. As the group relaxes in the hotel provided by the raid sponsor, Toru pulls out a bag overflowing with Holy Sword merchandise, amazing Tsukasa. The new friends chat, and Tsukasa and Toru discover they are both 14. Toru explains that she lives far away but often travels to join large raids like this one. Her expression then turns serious as she reveals her true motivation for being an adventurer. She is desperately searching for a rare dungeon drop called the Blue Elixir. Agino recognizes the name, explaining it is an incredibly rare item that has sold for as much as 1 billion yen, shocking Tsukasa. Kaikeru correctly deduces that she needs the elixir for a sick loved one. Toru confirms that her mother is ill and can no longer walk, and that doctors have said modern medicine can do nothing more for her. Kaikeru now understands why she was so determined to join the raid, and the group resolves to do their best in the battle the next day. The raid begins the following day inside a strange dungeon that resembles a vast desert filled with towering pyramids. The adventurers work together effectively, with other party members luring monsters toward Kaikeru so he can efficiently dispatch them with his traps. As the raid proceeds, however, Kaikeru becomes uneasy. He notices that the monsters they are encountering, such as the Murder Mebius and Whispering Maris, are unusually varied and lack a common theme, which makes it impossible for him to predict what kind of boss they will face. He shares his concerns with the raid commander, Hayadu, and asks for a change in strategy. Instead of the standard procedure of having the advance party take the first hits from the boss, Kaikeru requests that the main group's tanks be deployed on the front line immediately upon entering the boss room for added safety. Hayadu, after some initial hesitation, agrees that protecting the raid sponsor, Jessica, is the top priority. Just as a scout announces they have found the boss room, the party enters a massive, eerie cavern filled with bone-like pillars. Before they can establish their formation, the boss appears from the shadows above and launches a devastating surprise attack, instantly wiping out a large number of the unsuspecting adventurers in a series of dark energy blasts. In the chaos of the boss room, with the adventurers facing a terrifying, gigantic insect-like monster looming over them, Kajura Kaikeru has a moment of dawning realization as he recalls the names of the previous monsters they fought, Statue of Heaven's Fall, Murder Mebius, and Whispering Maris, and understands they were all creatures known for their incredible attack power, a clear warning of the final boss's nature. The massive boss, a death mantis, unleashes a devastating attack that instantly kills one of the adventurers, splattering him against the wall, while another of its limbs blocks the dungeon exit, trapping the horrified party inside. Recognizing the creature and its attack pattern, Kaikeru knows it will strike anyone who gets close with its massive blades, but if no one engages it, it will attack the party at random. With one tank already dead and not enough defenders to protect the entire group, he takes command and shouts a seemingly insane order at Ray Agino to step forward into the danger zone. As smaller versions of the monster begin to spawn, Kaikeru explains his risky plan. He will take on one of the boss's sickles himself but warns Agino that its attack power is immense and he cannot guarantee her shield will withstand the blows. Despite the raid organizer Jessica's panicked protests, Agino puts her trust in Kaikeru and, with a determined expression, states that sometimes a lady must act. The two of them charge forward and engage the Death Mantis in a desperate battle. Kaikeru is forced to use his arrow symbol skill to redirect every single one of the monster's relentless and powerful strikes just to stay alive. Seeing their struggle, the rest of the raid party rallies behind them, with ranged attackers providing supporting fire and healers desperately trying to keep the two tanks on their feet. Even with their combined efforts, the pressure is immense, and it becomes clear they cannot hold out for long. Seeing Agino about to be overwhelmed, Tsukage's Tsukasa leaps in with incredible speed, distracting the boss for a crucial moment and saving her from a devastating blow. As Yuzui Toru rushes to Tsukasa's side, Kaikeru is shocked to see her use a stealth skill, an assassin ability he has never seen a wizard use before. This sparks a new idea, and Kaikeru formulates a new, even more dangerous strategy. He tells the group he will use his skills to temporarily stop the boss's arms, creating an opening for Toru to use her stealth to get inside the creature's shell and unleash a powerful spell from point-blank range. Despite the immense danger, Toru agrees, saying she trusts Kaikeru completely. With the help of the other tanks, Kaikeru uses his Arrow Symbol X4 skill to create magical restraints that hold one of the mantis's arms in place. Toru seizes the opportunity, activates her stealth, and successfully fires her spell from inside the boss, causing a massive internal explosion that cripples one of the monster's limbs. The party's morale soars as they believe victory is now within reach. However, the enraged and wounded boss retaliates with a ferocious attack that shatters Agino's shield and sends her flying. As Kaikeru reaches his physical limit, Agino is saved at the last second by a magic shield, and her party members rush to protect her. In the final moments, Jessica, the raid organizer, steps forward with tears in her eyes, declaring she won't let anyone else die as she unleashes a massive spell of her own, engulfing the area in a blinding light. In the heat of the final battle against the Death Mantis, with a close-up on Yuzui Turu's strained face as she confirms that both she and Kajura Kaikeru are out of mana. Unable to create any more traps, Kaikeru is defenseless. In a desperate final act, Turu hands her staff to him, transferring all of her remaining magical energy for one last, combined attack that she entrusts to him. Holding the staff, Kaikeru knows he can no longer use his arrow symbol to defend himself, but with a determined expression, he resolves that he will not miss this single, decisive shot. The resulting blast of energy strikes the boss head-on, and in a massive explosion, the monster is defeated, leaving the clear gate to appear in its place as the surviving adventurers celebrate their victory. After emerging from the dungeon, the survivors hold a somber memorial around a campfire for the adventurers who died during the raid. They perform a final ritual, putting ash on their hands to honor their fallen comrades. During the memorial, Kaikeru is consumed by guilt, his face a mask of regret. He believes that if he had been quicker to understand the dungeon's theme or had the courage to reveal his past experience with Holy Sword, he might have been able to prevent the casualties. He thinks of his former party and their incredible strength, and a flashback shows them effortlessly facing down powerful monsters. He is overwhelmed by a feeling of weakness, believing he almost let something unforgivable happen to his new friends. As he stands alone in the woods, wondering how he can ever catch up to his old friends, a mysterious folded paper craft floats towards him. The origami-like object guides him through the trees to a figure standing in the woods, and he is shocked to see it is Itomi Kukuri, one of his former teammates from Holy Sword, dressed in a traditional kimono-like outfit. She correctly senses his distress over the recent deaths and admits it is a feeling she can never get used to. Kukuri tells him she doesn't have much time and gets straight to the point, revealing that Holy Sword will be making its first attempt to conquer the Origin Gate this winter. She explains that a selection test will be held in the fall to choose A-rank parties to support them in the raid, and she urges him to hurry if he wants a chance to join. Before leaving, she confesses that although she wanted him to stay safe, she was incredibly happy to hear that he was still fighting and working hard as an adventurer. Touched and re-energized by her words, Kaikeru shouts out to her, apologizing for avoiding her after he was expelled and admitting that he was scared. He promises her that he won't run away anymore and vows to become strong enough to stand by their side once again. Kukuri smiles, saying she is glad she got to see him and is looking forward to it. As she departs, a mysterious, ethereal hand is seen reaching down from the sky, and a voice comments that it likes children who don't know when to give up. After resting for 2 full days to recover from the raid, Kajura Kaikeru wakes up to find Ray Agino and Toga Natsum by his side. He feels better but notes the lingering fatigue that comes with healing magic. Soon after, Tsukiga's Tsukasa arrives, looking cheerful despite the recent traumatic events. Kaikeru and Agino express their concern for him, recalling that experiencing the death of a comrade for the first time is incredibly difficult, but Tsukasa insists he is fine. The conversation shifts to Kaikeru's ultimate ambition, rejoining Holy Sword to challenge the Origin Gate. He explains that conquering the gate has always been their dream, and he is determined to be with them when they attempt it. Agino and Tsukasa are supportive, but Kaikeru feels he must be honest about the immense dangers they will face. He reminds them that the last expedition was a harsh reminder that their work involves risking their lives, and he asks them to seriously consider if they are willing to continue down this perilous path, stating that their decision will determine the future of their new party, Vestage. Both Tsukasa and Agino affirm their commitment without a moment's hesitation. Tsukasa states it was their promise to explore the world of adventurers together, while Agino views the challenge as a historic opportunity for her and her family that she will not back down from. With their resolve solidified, Kaikeru promises that as their leader, he will not let anyone in their party die. Their new goal is set: get Vestige to A rank so they can participate in the selection test for the Origin Gate raid. They realize that to clear the necessary high-rank dungeons, they will need more members, especially a skilled rearguard. All 3 immediately think of the same person, the wizard Yuzui Turu. Meanwhile, Toru meets with the raid commander, Haidu, who informs her that the much-needed blue elixir did not drop during their last mission. Haidu then tells her that the members of Vestage wish to speak with her and gives them her contact information. Later, at her mother's hospital, Toru's uncle expresses his deep concern for her safety, feeling guilty for her dangerous work, and suggests it is time for her to quit being an adventurer and live a normal life. Just as he is leaving, she receives the message from Vestige and rushes to meet them. After Kaikeru explains their ambitious goal and invites her to join their party, Toru holds a rice ball her father gave her and speaks of her family's love and struggles. She declares that she does not see adventuring as a misfortune but as her only chance to save her mother. With firm resolve, she formally asks to join Vestige so she can continue her quest for the blue elixir in the highest level dungeons. Moved by her dedication, Kaikeru accepts her into the party and makes a solemn promise that they will find the elixir together. The chapter concludes by introducing a new, unnamed A-rank adventurer in a rural area, complaining about having to travel for his license renewal and expressing a desire to move to Tokyo, setting the stage for a future encounter. At the Adventurer Association headquarters, where Hagane Ko reports to the association's president that her party, Holy Sword, has successfully reduced the unmanaged monster threat in northern Kanto. The president, an older man in a suit, thanks her and expresses hope that he can now spend time with his grandson. From a large office window, they both look out at the Tokyo skyline, where the ominous Origin Gate hovers ominously. The president remarks that it is finally time to strike at the core. Ko asks if it is true that clearing the Origin Gate will cause all other gates to close, but the president admits it is only a hypothesis, making the upcoming raid a necessary gamble. He promises his full support but notes with concern that their recent call for support parties has received a disappointingly low number of applications so far, though Ko remains confident that more will join by the fall. The scene then shifts to a car driving through a rural, mountainous landscape. Inside, Kajura Kaikeru is driving with Yuzui Toru, who thanks him for accompanying her. He tells her there is no need for thanks, as he also needed to renew his license and her familiarity with the area is a great help. They arrive at the modern-looking Hokuriku branch of the Adventurer Association, where a receptionist confirms Toru's B-rank license renewal. When the receptionist turns to Kaikeru, he shocks her by declaring his intention to take the A-rank exam, aiming to skip a rank entirely, an unprecedented request for a trap master. After confirming he has the necessary experience, she grants him the opportunity on the condition that he wins 3 consecutive duel victories. Kaikeru enters the training room, his expression determined as he prepares for the first hurdle he must clear to catch up to his former party. In another room, his opponent, an A-rank fencer named Kazari Kyuko, sighs with annoyance, wanting to get her required spar over with quickly. She checks her opponent's details and is surprised to see he is a trap master, a class she has fought before but never at the A-rank level. The match begins, and Kyuko rushes in, believing she can win by simply avoiding his traps. Kaikeru engages her in close combat to force her into a trap, but she is confident she can overpower him. He then surprises her with an unconventional tactic, setting an arrow symbol trap on his own body to launch himself forward with explosive speed. The duel intensifies, and Kyuko demonstrates her incredible A-rank speed by dodging one of his traps even after she has already stepped on it, a feat that leaves Kaikeru completely shocked. Realizing that standard traps are useless against her, Kaikeru changes his strategy. Kyuko, in turn, recognizes his arrow ability is troublesome and pulls out 2 ornate pistols, revealing she has ranged options as well. Feeling overwhelmed, Kaikeru fuses his traps to create elemental projectiles, forcing Kyuko to treat him like a powerful wizard. The fight becomes a fierce exchange of attacks and evasions, with Kaikeru using his traps to maneuver around the arena in unpredictable ways. He launches himself into the air and attacks from above, and although she blocks, he uses the opening to set another trap. Kyuko finds herself pressured in close combat, overwhelmed by his speed and power. In a final, desperate move, Kaikeru, though pinned down and at his limit, finds a single opening and is determined to seize victory to take one step closer to reuniting with his friends.